They found me on the floor of the basement laundry room, curled up next to the old furnace for warmth. It was my daughter Sarah who screamed first. Then silence. Then her voice. Very quiet. The kind of quiet that is somehow worse than screaming. Mom, what happened to you? You've lost so much weight. Why are you sleeping down here? You have a pension of over $6,000 a month. Where is it all going? Before I could answer, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Slow, confident footsteps. And then my daughter-in-law Lisa appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, that familiar half-smile on her face. She prefers it down here, Lisa said. She told us herself. I had told them no such thing. My name is Harold. I am 68 years old. I spent 31 years working for the city of Ottawa, in the Parks and Infrastructure Department. I started as a groundskeeper and retired as a district supervisor. My wife Carol passed away 4 years ago from ovarian cancer. We had 2 children together. Kevin, our son, who is 41, and Sarah, our daughter, who is 38 and lives in Vancouver. After Carol died, I managed on my own for nearly a year. I kept the house clean. I cooked simple meals. I walked every morning through the Rideau River Eastern Pathway, the same route Carol and I used to walk together. I was lonely, but I was managing. Then Kevin called one evening in early spring and said that he and Lisa were thinking of moving back to Ottawa from Toronto. He said the cost of living was getting difficult, that their rental lease was ending, and that he thought it might be good for all of us if they moved into my house for a while. He said it warmly. He said it would be like having family around again. I said yes, without hesitation. I was glad to have him home. They arrived in April with a moving truck and more furniture than I expected. Lisa was organized. I will give her that. Within 2 weeks, she had rearranged the main floor, moved several of my things into the basement storage, and established what she called a household routine. I told myself it was fine. Young people have their ways. I wanted to be accommodating. The first sign I missed was small. Lisa suggested that since Kevin would now be handling the household bills, it made sense to consolidate the accounts. She said it would be simpler, more efficient. She mentioned my CPP payments and my city pension coming into a shared account so that Kevin could manage the mortgage, hydro, groceries, and household expenses all in one place. She made it sound responsible. She made it sound like something I should be grateful for. I was retired. I was not especially confident with online banking. Kevin sat with me one afternoon and helped me transfer my direct deposit information. He seemed sincere. He called me Dad and squeezed my shoulder. I told myself this was what families do. Share the load. What I did not fully understand until much later was that I had signed a document that afternoon as well. Lisa had prepared it in advance. It was several pages long. Kevin told me it was a household expense agreement. He flipped to the last page and handed me a pen. I trusted my son. I signed it. It was not a household expense agreement. The change did not happen overnight. It crept in the way cold air creeps under a door in a Canadian winter. You do not notice it at first, and then one morning you realize you have been shivering for hours. By June, I was no longer eating dinner with Kevin and Lisa at the kitchen table. Lisa said she and Kevin needed quiet time together in the evenings. She said I could eat earlier, before they got home from work. She left food in the refrigerator with my name on the container. Small portions. I told myself this was fine. By July, she had given my bedroom to her sister, who was visiting from Calgary, and suggested I move temporarily to the basement room. Just for the summer, she said. The basement room had a single bed, a small window at ground level, and no air conditioning. Ottawa summers can be genuinely hot, in a way that surprises people who only think of Canada in winter. That summer was 33 degrees for 2 weeks straight. I asked about moving back upstairs after the sister left. Lisa said the room was now Kevin's home office. She said it in the same tone she used to discuss the weather. I had no money of my own. My pension was deposited directly into the shared account. Lisa managed the account. When I asked Kevin for spending money to buy a birthday card for my old colleague at the city, he had to ask Lisa. Lisa gave me $40. She counted it out in front of me. My cell phone plan had been changed. Lisa said it was to save money. She chose a new plan with a data limit so small I could barely use it to make calls. I did not have enough data to video call Sarah. I told Sarah things were fine. In the short phone calls I was allowed before the data ran out, I did not want to worry her. I did not want to cause a problem in Kevin's marriage. That is the mistake I made, that I regret most. By September, I had been in the basement for 2 months. I had lost weight because I was not eating properly. I had a bruise along my left side from where I had slipped on the basement stairs. In the dark, the overhead bulb had burnt out, and Lisa had not replaced it. I had asked 3 times. I was sleeping next to the furnace because it was the only warm spot in the room once the temperature dropped at night. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself Kevin would see it eventually. I told myself my son loved me. And then Sarah came home for Thanksgiving. She had booked the flight without telling Kevin. She had tried calling me the week before and got a message that my number was temporarily out of service. She tried Kevin's phone and he said everything was fine, that I was just tired lately, that she did not need to visit. Something in his voice made her book the flight anyway. She arrived on a Friday evening while Kevin and Lisa were out at a dinner party. She used her old key. She called my name. I did not answer because I was in the basement and could not hear her clearly. She found me when she opened the basement door and saw the light from the furnace. What happened in the next 10 seconds I will carry for the rest of my life. My daughter, my strong, capable daughter who does not cry easily, went completely silent when she saw me. Then her face collapsed. She came down the stairs and put her arms around me, and I could feel her shaking. "Dad," she said, "what did they do to you?" It was not a question. I told her everything that night, all of it, starting with the day Kevin and Lisa arrived with their moving truck and their furniture and their household efficiency. I told her about the shared account, about the document I signed, about the $40 counted out in front of me, about the basement, about the burnt-out light bulb. Sarah listened without interrupting. She sat across from me on the old storage boxes, and she listened with her hands folded in her lap and her jaw tight. When I finished, she asked me one question. "Dad, do you have any copies of anything you signed?" I did not. I had not thought to keep copies. She nodded slowly. Then she said, "Okay, here is what we are going to do. Tonight, nothing. We do nothing to alert them. Tomorrow morning, I am going to take you to see a doctor. After that, we are going to see a lawyer. And I am going to document everything in this room before we leave." She took out her phone and photographed the basement room, the single bed, the burnt-out light bulb, the window at ground level, my bruised side, my face, which I had not looked at in a mirror in several weeks. When she showed me the photograph afterward, I did not recognize myself. I had lost perhaps 15 pounds. My eyes looked sunken. I looked like a man who had given up. I had not given up, but I had been close. Kevin and Lisa returned at 11 that night. When Kevin saw Sarah in the kitchen, he went pale. Lisa did not go pale. Lisa straightened her back and said, very calmly, "Sarah, we weren't expecting you." "No," Sarah said, "I know." She did not say anything else that night. She was very controlled. She told them she was staying for a few days, said good night, and went to sleep in her old room, which was the one room in the house that Lisa had not reassigned. The next morning, Sarah took me to the Queensway Carleton Hospital walk-in clinic. The doctor who examined me noted the bruising, the weight loss, and what she described in her notes as signs consistent with neglect in a domestic setting. She asked me directly if I felt safe at home. I told her the truth. I did not. She made a record of it. From the hospital, Sarah drove me to a legal clinic near Centertown that specializes in elder law. I had not known such a thing existed. The lawyer we spoke with, a calm woman in her 50s, who had clearly heard stories like mine before, explained several things to me that I wish I had known years earlier. She told me that in Ontario, a power of attorney for property gives someone the authority to manage your finances, but it does not transfer ownership of your assets. It does not mean your money becomes theirs. And, critically, if the POA is being misused, if the person holding it is using it for their own benefit rather than yours, that is not just a civil matter. That is elder financial abuse, and it is a criminal offense under the Criminal Code of Canada. She also told me that the document I had signed could be challenged. A document signed without full informed consent, without independent legal advice, by a person who did not understand what they were signing, may not be legally valid. We would need to examine it. But she was not pessimistic. Sarah had taken photographs of the basement room the night before. The doctor's report existed. I had my recollections, and I was willing to speak clearly. The lawyer said we had more than she had expected. She also advised something I had not anticipated. She told me not to go back to the house that night. She referred us to a victim services organization that works with older adults in Ottawa. They helped arrange temporary accommodation for me at a seniors transitional housing unit near Nepean. It was a small, clean apartment. It had working light bulbs. The temperature was controlled. I sat in the kitchen that first evening and ate a full meal for the first time in months, and I wept without fully understanding why until I realized it was relief. Sarah stayed in Ottawa. She took time from her job in Vancouver, and her employer, to her credit, allowed her to work remotely for several weeks. She became, in effect, my case manager. She was methodical in a way that reminded me so strongly of her mother that it sometimes made it difficult to breathe. She obtained a court order requiring full disclosure of the shared account transactions. What the records showed was significant. Over the 7 months I had lived in that basement, more than $42,000 of my pension money had flowed through that account. Of that, a small fraction had gone to household expenses that could reasonably be attributed to my needs. The rest had paid for a leased SUV in Lisa's name, a vacation to Portugal Kevin had told me was a work trip, furniture for the main floor of my own house, and a substantial series of transfers to a savings account held in Lisa's name alone. The lawyer filed a complaint with the Ottawa Police Service Elder Abuse Unit. She simultaneously filed a civil application in the Ontario Superior Court to have the financial arrangement declared invalid and to recover the misappropriated funds. Kevin called me twice during this period. The first call he was defensive, telling me that I had agreed to everything, that Lisa had only been trying to help, that I was letting Sarah stir up trouble. I listened without responding much. The second call, about a week later, his voice was different, quieter. I think by then he had spoken with a lawyer of his own and understood what the financial records were showing. He said, "Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know how bad it had gotten." I believed him, partially. I think Kevin is a man who found it easier not to know. I think Lisa had managed that very carefully, but partial responsibility is still responsibility, and I told him so, in the kindest way I knew how. "Kevin," I said, "you are my son. I love you. But you brought someone into my home who treated me like a burden to be managed, and you let it happen. That is something we will have to work through for a long time." He did not respond. After a moment, I heard him exhale slowly. "I know, Dad," he said. The civil hearing was held in late January at the Ontario Superior Court of Justice. It was not a dramatic event in the way that court scenes appear in films. There was no shouting. There was no moment where someone broke down and confessed. There was simply the methodical presentation of evidence, bank records, the doctor's report, the photographs Sarah had taken, the housing organization's documentation of my condition when I arrived. Lisa's lawyer argued that I had consented to all financial arrangements, and that the living situation was a matter of family preference. The judge was not persuaded. She noted the power imbalance, the documented evidence of financial exploitation, and the condition in which I had been found. Lisa was ordered to repay $38,000. The financial arrangement was declared invalid. Kevin and Lisa were required to vacate my home within 60 days. There was also a referral from the civil matter to the Elder Abuse Unit for continued criminal review. I will not say more about that process as it remains ongoing. What I will say is that in Ontario, elder financial abuse is taken seriously, and the systems to address it, while imperfect, exist and they function. I moved back into my own house in March. Sarah came from Vancouver to help me. We repainted the basement room and turned it into a proper storage space, with shelving and good lighting. We had a contractor look at the stairs. We fixed the light bulb, and then we replaced the entire fixture with a better one. On the first morning back, I walked the Rideau River Eastern Pathway alone. The ice was still breaking up on the water. A few geese had come back early. The air had that particular smell of Canadian spring, mud and cold water, and something underneath it that promises that the worst is ending. I thought about Carol. I thought about the year after she died. When I was lonely but managing, I thought about how quickly I had trusted, how completely I had wanted things to be the way they used to be, my son home, family around the table, the house full of sound again. I had wanted it so much that I had not seen what was happening until I was sleeping next to a furnace in my own basement. I am not embarrassed by that. Wanting to trust your family is not a weakness. Being deceived by someone who understood that need and used it is not a moral failing on my part. But I want to say this clearly to anyone who is watching this and who is in a situation that feels even slightly familiar. You have rights in this country. You have legal protections. The Canadian Centre for Elder Law, the Ontario Seniors Care and Support Line at 1-833-943-3946. Community legal clinics in every major city. These resources exist. The system is imperfect and slow, but it worked for me, and it can work for you. Do not wait until someone finds you on the laundry room floor. Do not let loyalty to a child's marriage cost you your own dignity. And do not, under any circumstances, sign a document you have not read in full without independent legal advice, regardless of who is handing you the pen. Kevin and I are in contact. It is careful, tentative contact, like learning to walk on ice. I do not know what our relationship will look like in 5 years. I know that I still love my son. I know that love and accountability are not mutually exclusive. We are finding that out slowly. Sarah calls every Sunday. Sometimes we just talk about nothing, the geese on the pathway, what I made for dinner, a documentary she watched. It is the best part of my week. I am Harold. I am 68 years old. I live in my own house, in my own bedroom, with working light bulbs and a full refrigerator, and a pension that goes into an account with my name on it, and no one else's. It took everything I had to get back here, but I am back.